Welcome to another episode of the Y Factor, listeners. Today is Thursday, the 24th of May, and we're having another, how do you say, not perform, it's not a performance.
Unprecedented.
That's right, unprecedented segment. Inshallah, we've got three amazing guests in the studio, and we're going to be talking about everyone's favourite word, marriage. Yeah, that's right, you giggle, laugh, roll your eyes, it's here, the Y Factor's here, and inshallah we will be covering the segment on marriage. Now, just before we get started, Mohamed Taha, this week there was that flash mob for Syria, and that was organised by yourself and some other young persons. Can you just tell us a bit about the flash mob, please?
Yeah, so basically, if you guys seen on the Y Factor page, I had watched the inspiration behind the flash mob was basically I watched a flash mob that occurred in Canada on behalf of Muslim students there. They posted it online. I watched it late at night as I was trolling the internet and was that captivated that I thought we should do something like that in Sydney. So I posted it on the Y Factor. I said, who's in? Alhamdulillah, there were many responses. So I contacted a few brothers, Hisham Krayem, notably Mohsin Soleh. We set up a team of about 5 brothers and 6 sisters, and we said we're going to meet. We had a few meetings. We set up a Facebook page. We organised volunteers. We got placards going. We came up with the slogan, "Silence is Betrayal." It's originally quoted by Martin Luther King, so there's a lot of history behind it, and I think it's a very powerful catchphrase. And yeah, so basically we went ahead with the flash mob on Saturday in Darling Harbour. Alhamdulillah, there were no issues in regards to police or rangers or anything like that. Yeah, it was very successful. We had about 85 people perform on the day. Personally, I've done a fair few events in the past, and it was very surprising and encouraging to see young Muslims could act and perform and stick on cue.
That
and
sounds a bit condescending.
No, it's not condescending. I think it's reality. I don't think there's enough emphasis in our community on the arts per se in terms of the Muslims and performance and theatre. It was amazing. We briefed them. We rehearsed on the day. We hadn't rehearsed beforehand. We went ahead with it. Well, it was that good that we did it again on the same day. So we did 2. Then Kamal Soleh, Ibrahim Abdo and Faraz packaged all their footage, and they worked their magic and came up with a video, alhamdulillah, and it's been going viral online. It was trending as the top 5 flash mob video on YouTube about 2 days ago. Notable characters in the Muslim world such as Mahir Zain, Sheikh Faraz Rabbani, Anas Al-Takriti, a lot of these guys have had them on our show, Bona Muhammad, Baba Ali, Omar Regan, they've all posted it and tweeted it, alhamdulillah, so it's getting out there, and that's the whole purpose of it. It's just a movement of young people trying to raise awareness for justice in the world. The idea is simple: if we remain silent, we betray our moral obligations to stand up against injustice and speak up for justice. So essentially that was it, Tasnim.
Well, that sounds like a pretty lofty introduction. So let's just get started on the segment for this week, inshallah. Okay, the word marriage triggers up a lot of, how do you say it, sentiments, ideas, feelings. Everybody seems to have a view on this topic. People are kind of sick of it being discussed. I mean, one of our Facebook commentators said, why does this always come up? Why do we need new events or forums or lectures or radio shows to tell us the same thing we always hear about marriage? Just because it's a different medium or a new group has handed out a new flyer, you think you're going to hear something new. So, panelists, I think you've got a great weight up on your shoulders as I said, I think we're having a look at it from a different perspective on the Y Factor. So, as young people, yourselves talking to an audience primarily made up of young people, what we want to talk about is the obstacles, okay? So, the obstacles to marriage. Why is marriage such a contested topic when it should be one of the most simple things? Cultural issues, religious issues, how to actually go about finding the right one, and these are all issues and questions that we've actually had through the page and through conversations with fellow Y Factorians. Now, as a primer for the episode, we actually put out the Y Factor survey.
Tasnim, sorry, do you want to introduce our guests before you get into our data? Our primary research. I think that's kind of important. Otherwise, you're going to have 3 people speaking and they don't know who they are.
All right, as Taha said, so this week, inshallah, we have Sister Az, who is a trustee of Mission of Hope and one of the organisers of the M Word. You'll hear more about the event later. Welcome to the show, Sister.
Thank you.
All right. After that, we have Sister Raidah, who is a writer for Muslim Village, teaches at Al Ghazali Centre, and will be co-hosting Seekers Guidance event. Why are you not married yet? Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, we have Brother Muhammad Khan, who is a project manager of the I Debate series, that's another event that we'll talk about later, inshallah, and it is entitled, Is a Lengthy Pre-Wedding Nikah the Way to Go? Welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum.
All right, so 3 different organisations, same topic. What's the deal, guys?
Well, clearly the fact that so many people are talking about it, like you mentioned earlier, you referred to that guy or girl, whoever, who was saying that, why does the community keep talking about this topic? Why are there so many events, etc., etc.? There wouldn't be a need for all of this if it wasn't such an issue. And if young people didn't keep bringing it up at every lecture, every community event, you could speak to most community leaders, and the one thing they'll tell you straight away is the most common question they receive is about marriage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sister Raidah, you yourself wrote a couple of articles on Muslim Village about this topic. Is that what triggered you to actually start writing these articles?
Yeah, exactly. I remember very vividly when I came back from my studies in Jordan in about March last year. One of the very first questions I kept hearing from people, did you get married? No, you married yet? Did you find anybody? I was like, okay, no, but I did lots of other things. Can I talk about that instead? No, exactly. So that sort of was the impetus for me to start writing articles addressing something that does not only impact on myself at the time, but a lot of other girls I know and guys as well.
And Brother Mohammed, ISRA, the iDebate series, has various topics. What made you guys choose the iDebate series to start off with marriage?
Well, to echo Sister Az's comments about marriage and it's being a universal topic, we actually had a range of topics to choose from, and the only one that got a lot of traction in the focus group was about marriage. So, funnily enough, we had to go with it. So, we're quite happy with it because every single person I talk to, and this is religious and non-religious Muslims in the community, everybody's got an opinion about it. So I think, alhamdulillah, I think it's a good topic to talk about.
Now, you guys are all in your late 20s, early 30s. Some of you are married, some of you aren't. Why do you think young Australian Muslims, before we get onto the data and the results, why do you think we're that fixated with the topic of marriage? Is it because we live, I was reading some of Sister Az's comments online, in such a hypersexualized society that urges and desires.
Sorry, that wasn't him.
There was another comment. I guess Az triggered that comment from the previous comment. But we live in such a hypersexualized society where urges and desires are at the forefront, and follow your nafs is pretty much the premise on which many non-Muslims work off. Is that one of the reasons? So feel free,
I think that's definitely one of them. But if you think about it realistically, prophets got married. People have been getting married for like millennia, from the beginning of time. It's not a new thing. But I think the issue in the West and Sydney and many other countries, that the avenues for people to actually meet someone compatible. Forget Muslim marrying Muslim. Obviously, we know that. That's a whole other issue. But in terms of how can I find someone I actually want to get married to, someone who understands the language I speak, not in terms of, just like linguistics, but culture, social background and all these kind of things. So it's, yes, and the thing is, it's probably amplified by the fact we have, billboards out there that aren't appropriate, daytime TV that's similarly problematic these days. Like, nothing is sacred. So marriage is a halal and sunnah institution that helps you channel that energy. But
it's the only institution.
Exactly. So, alhamdulillah, we need to talk about this.
That's right.
What else do you want to talk about instead?
Well, at the Y Factor, we hear you, sister. So what we actually did is, we put out an online survey to our fellow Y Factorians, asking them to complete 10 questions about marriage, okay? The survey was very, very brief, very quick. You could have finished it in 20 seconds. And mashallah, in less than 2 days, honestly, like less than 48 hours, we had 96 responses, okay?
Wow.
Which is pretty wow for a survey. If anyone has done research, you know how hard it is to actually, find responses. Now, we'll just go through the findings, and inshallah, welcome to, in your view, to actually comment. So the first one, if you're single, what's stopping you from getting married, okay? An overwhelming 35.4% said lack of opportunities to meet people. Now, is this the purpose of the M word, why marriage matters? Is this the purpose to facilitate opportunity, people to find opportunities to actually meet people?
That's exactly why it's happening. So the forum on Saturday is just going to be an open discussion, open dialogue for people to express their concerns and to express their opinions as to where they'd like to see the events go. Because after the forum, there's actually going to be a practical aspect to it where there will be events run for single Muslims, like-minded people, to get to know one another, facilitated, of course, in a halal environment, supervised. This is a model that's been happening. It's taken from a model that's happened overseas, particularly in places such as in countries like England and America, etc., where they hold these events all the time. And Australia's been a bit behind. Because we live in a multicultural society as well, it's a bit hard because everyone comes with their own baggage, and some people hold on to their traditions, and it just doesn't translate for a lot of people, living in a country like Australia. So, for instance, I know people who've broken up because, their mother didn't like the fact that the girl, for instance, came from a different village, which is like 5 minutes away from their village. Do you know what I mean? So there are issues like
can I
this.
interject? I just want to ask a quick question. You're organizing this event, but one of the things I hear a lot, especially from brothers, is that we go to these Islamic events, and because it's an Islamic event, we feel like we need to behave properly.
Yeah.
So we sit segregated, and we don't want to mix with the opposite sex. So how exactly, and I think that's the biggest problem why people say there's a lack of opportunities. So we go to these Muslim events, but we're not really meeting the opposite sex. We just, amongst the brothers, we talk. So how is this different?
This is different because, first of all, people fill out a questionnaire before they go, and then. Okay, people fill out a questionnaire before they go, and then basically, inshallah, they'll be seated with like-minded people, so you can actually get to know, another person, and get to know their background, what they're like, etc. So it's not going to be segregated in that regard, where you're not going to get to meet anyone or see them. You're going to interact with other people, but it will be done in a halal environment.
Did you read the comment on the Life Factor page? This brother had this innovative idea that brothers should start carrying around these wallet cards that has your name. No, get these. Listen to the categories: the name, the Twitter account, the Facebook account, their number, mother's number, and any other medium, and then they can just give it out. He even suggested to put it in mailboxes. Now, I can see some of you nodding, some of you shaking your heads.
Well, I mean, people do that anyway. They're interacting on Facebook and other mediums nowadays that
But
people 10 years ago didn't.
Where's the human aspect, right? You can be all kinds of interesting and witty and funny and brilliant behind a computer screen.
Exactly.
But when you actually meet someone in real life, will there be that connection? Will there be any connection? So, I mean, this is why it's really fantastic that Mission of Hope is running this event. So hopefully it's a step in the right direction. I know that there will be haters, there will be people who be like, oh, this is really weird and awkward, but it's a beginning. We need to start talking about these things. And the problem of segregation, really, it's a big issue. Yes, we know we need to be respectful amongst the genders, and yes, we know that there's limits we cannot cross. But if segregation is leading to an issue where men and women cannot even meet each other to get married, then what's the purpose, right? We have to look at the objectives. The objectives is, instead of thinking, oh, men and women can't talk, otherwise there's dinner. What about marriage? I ever thought of that? Like, it's being optimistic as a community. As practicing Muslims, the first thing you think about when you see someone you like is not, oh, I'm going to do something bad with them. It's like, hey, that's a nice person. Maybe I can meet his mom or dad or something. So community events like this actually help to break down that titanium wall between the genders and to hopefully, stimulate discussion and introduce things that we would not have otherwise thought of.
Sister Raidah, I think the issue though is maybe it's not just so much segregation, but a lot of people actually do not think that there are persons out there, like population-wise, right?
Yeah.
Because according to our data results, 19.9% of the participants said that they actually don't find any eligible males out there. So maybe it's a male drought. Mohammed, do you agree?
That's a load of bollocks. That is a load of rubbish. There is plenty of good males out there. I don't think... I commend Mission of Hope on the idea of the event, but I don't think male potentials... I personally probably wouldn't attend that event if I was looking. It's just a bit awkward in the sense that it gives off the impression I'm somewhat desperate or I need to find someone or my other avenues of searching aren't working. But I do like the idea, and I agree that we need new avenues. I mean, that was the primary reason. The second one is there are no eligible males out there. I don't know. Brother Mohammed, what do you think about that?
Well, I'll echo Brother Muhammad Taha's words, but I also say that brothers say to me there's no eligible females out there. So it's sort of, the perception is both ways.
5.2% said there's no females out there, so they do agree with you to a certain extent, but I think generally the conception out there is there are no males.
But at the end of the day, though, the reason there is a stigma attached to these types of, just thinking of these events, because really it hasn't really happened in Australia to this extent. There is a stigma out there, and that's what Mission of Hope is trying to do. It's trying to break that down and give people the opportunity to get to know one another. And once you go to the forum on Saturday, 6 o'clock at the Emporium in Bankstown, plug, yeah, you will see how it's actually going to work. You will see that it's going to be done in a way that's going to remove the awkwardness, where there's going to be discretion involved, where people can actually, if they meet someone they like, they can actually, approach one of the facilitators, and there's actually a system involved where both parties won't be embarrassed. So it's actually well thought out, and I really encourage everyone to go out there and check it out. And the fact that people think that it's too embarrassing or whatever, it just shows that there is a huge need for something like this out there.
Sister Az, I think the issue though is sometimes it's with these events, the problem is, and a lot of people, this is a criticism of such like halal, showcasting events, is the fact that people would start looking for things like just physical attractiveness or like an outgoing crazy persona rather than qualities that actually matter. I mean, and this might not actually be something that people don't think about generally, because our survey showed that after religiosity, the two primary things that people actually look at when considering a future spouse is 32.3% said physical attractiveness and 39.6% said level of education. Now, our responses were limited, obviously. They were given similar cultural background, age and income as the other variables. However, these are things at the forefront of people's minds. So do you think at events like this, where you just go around and meet people that have like hidden talents, or they're just like an awesome person but they're shy in social settings, won't actually get it?
Well, with an event like this, it's just basically facilitating the first step. And attraction is subjective at the end of the day. You can be attracted to somebody for many different qualities. We can't discount what people are going to be, we can't discount what they're attracted by. But at the same time, all we're doing is helping people reach that first step, because the most common complaint is there are no events for us to meet like-minded people of the opposite sex.
Forget everything else, right?
Yeah.
At least get to meet someone first, then you can start figuring out what to do next.
Because in our community, everything is so segregated. Even in the more liberal, and I use that in inverted commas, events, it's still relatively segregated. And when you have people, Muslims, going to work and interacting every day with non-Muslims of the opposite sex, and then going to a Muslim event, and then all of a sudden sort of, retracting back into their shell, you can't blame brothers that are out there getting married to non-Muslim women, in my personal opinion, because they're the ones who are actually, they're the ones they deal with every day, and they're getting to know their personality, and they're being attracted to them.
Well, I have an issue with that. It's a valid point, because yes, we do have, guys out there working and so on, but we also have Muslim girls who are also working with non-Muslim guys, who actually talk to them like a human, open the door for them, ask them about interesting things. None of this awkwardness that is often associated with Muslim guys. Now, this is not to justify marrying outside the faith for either one. Yeah. So this is why this is imperative. We need to let Muslims meet Muslims and sort out all the fine details afterwards. And we need to teach our young people to have enough taqwa and self-control, that it's okay if you talk to a girl who's Muslim, you will not melt or implode. On the other, seriously, we need maturity. We need role modeling. We need young people to see couples who are already married interacting with each other. We need a community that's helping to actively matchmake people. That's how I got married. It was a team effort. Seriously.
You got to hear this story.
A project in itself.
It was a project.
She has to tell the story. It's amazing. Go.
My husband's listening, so it's so good. So basically, it began with my brother, who knew my husband, and they all went to Arabic class together. Yep. So I came back from Jordan. I was complaining. Everyone's asking me why I'm not married yet. Rage, complain, write articles on the rest of it. And then Mohammed's like, my brother, oh, well, there's a guy in my Arabic class who's really nice. You might like him. I'm like, okay. Show me his Facebook profile. And then so
that's a yardstick, the Facebook profile.
That's the beginning, like photo profile at the beginning. And I'm like, yeah, okay, And then the next step was to actually get me into the Arabic class. And that was when I actually met him. He had no idea that this was all happening. So everyone else was in it, basically, except for him, subhanAllah. So then through that,
I wasn't in it.
Az sort of figured out later. So basically, my brother, the married couple who facilitated this whole thing and basically let us have space to speak to each other. So that's where he saw me as a, okay, I'm studying Arabic as well, and he's really interesting, and oh wow, we met again at another event, like, another volunteering event, and then soon, we were able to actually take things to like, okay, well, let's talk about marriage. So, but he had to begin somewhere,
Yeah. Sister Raidah.
So now you can go. I just want to interject and bring it back to the results about physical attraction and level of education. That's a once-off event. I think with Sister Raidah's comment about she going to the Quran classes, she was Arabic classes. Sorry, she was constantly meeting this person. So there was an environment where they were just, I think, past the physical attraction, she was getting to know them.
In a relaxed environment.
But I think there are 2 points from this story. Is that she actually took the initiative and took action herself. And he had no idea what was happening.
Well, Sister Raidah, I think you'll be in the minority because according to
that.
Question 8 was, question 7 was, which party should approach the other to express interest in a relationship? Now, 49% said males, which is pretty much old school. The second overwhelming majority said 38.5% said whichever, it doesn't matter. So you fell into that category. Did you at all feel, and 0% said female only?
Wow, man, seriously, guys and girls, if you want to get married, you have to take action. Like, look at what happened to Khadija radiallahu anha, the one of the best women that we've ever read about. And she was able to propose, essentially, through a third party to her employee. So he married his boss, who was twice married before, with children, 15 years older than him. Beautiful, respected, nobility. But what did she see in him? Good character. So alhamdulillah, I saw in my husband, like, this guy is a catch. He's a really good guy. And you know what? If he's the right guy for me, he will not be intimidated by the fact that I've basically spotted him.
Something personal that happens to me and my brother a lot. Because we interact with a lot of opposite sides of the gender, a lot of sisters and brothers involved in da'wah events and what have you. We actually have a list at home. A list of about 15 sisters and 12 brothers who have all told us through the period of this 6 months of this year that they're looking for someone. So we're there trying to play Mr. Matchmaker, but alhamdulillah, it's worked twice. One didn't work. So the track record's pretty good. But the point is, I feel the need, and you guys I want to hear your comments on this. Muslims are nervous, they're shy, there are a lot of barriers. Why do they feel the need to go through a third party to sell themselves? Do you think they should, have the audacity to do it themselves?
Well, it depends on the woman. And I think I would not have done this if I was 19, for example. But by the time you're 28, you've traveled, you've gone on Hajj, you've studied, you've lived outside of home, you become a very different person. And you realize that, alhamdulillah, I have the confidence in me to know that whatever is good will come my way. And I know Allah will not let me down. So having that tawakkul, you need to have that faith that I'm going to put my cards on the table and see what happens.
Is it so much audacity though, or like religious restrictions, for example? Like, I think I just want to clarify this for the listeners. We're not advocating for sisters kind of go out there with their number and be like, "Salam alaikum, brother, here's my number, call me."
Or brothers be like, "Sister, do you want me to wake up for Fajr? Here's my number."
Exactly. I think we just need to clarify for some listeners. That's not the approach we're taking.
No.
What you're saying is, if there is an interest, okay. Don't be shy and dream and pray tahajjud for the guy to actually come along.
Do something about it. Take the steps. Be proactive. And there's no shame in that.
By the end of the day.
That's right. There's no shame in that. And that you should not be pining for someone who's not your husband. So just to end that, at least find out, okay, is he gonna marry me or is he not? Best case scenario, you get married. Fantastic.
Can I ask about, just from your experience, intention, at how long did you actually make it known to him that you actually were interested in him as a husband? Because I think intention is actually a very important thing as Muslims.
From the first day I met him, I was already essentially scoping him out.
Okay.
So this is from the beginning. So that was clear to me, to my brother, and to the married couple who facilitated that. So we were on a mission. He didn't know anything really until after, sort of like middle.
He was married.
Like, what am I doing here?
Does he still know? Does he know?
He knows pretty clear now. But maybe maybe a few weeks later, the middle of Ramadan, then we started officially talking after Eid.
Right.
So it was actually very, very quick because istikhara was very clear, and I think because I was like 27, he was about 30, so we knew what we wanted, and we just cut to the chase.
All right,
Seriously.
Sister Raidah, is he from the same background as you?
I'm from Singapore. He's
Yeah.
from Malaysia.
Okay.
So that was it helps, I think.
Okay, well,
Southeast
I
Asia.
just want to speak about the issue of
Southeast Asia.
backgrounds because
Southeast
a
Asia.
lot of comments that have been coming through the Facebook page are about mixed marriages and marriages from people of very vastly different backgrounds. So I think Malaysia and Singapore is pretty close.
Pretty
Egypt and
close.
Lebanon is pretty close.
Yeah.
But for example, say when you have someone from like Africa and someone from, I don't know, Europe. You know what I mean? So vastly different cultures. With varying languages, varying cultural practices, how does it work?
I get this question asked to me a lot, like, does it matter where they're from, or is it just that they're Muslim? I always will tell them, I personally don't matter because it's about the individual. But honestly, I think where it becomes a factor is your family, because ultimately as Muslims, we know like two families get married to one another, and your parents sort of want to get along with your spouse's parents, and so it just makes it easier if you have the same culture, you have the same food, you have the same practices. I mean, for example, the I debate, this question was foreign to me when it came across, because we don't practice it in South Africa, which is where I'm from. And it would be an issue if, for example, I got married to, for example, maybe an Arab who wanted to get Islamically married before we actually had the wedding. I don't think my family would have accepted that. So I think cultural issues are very important, and we need to talk about them.
It's true, and I think that when young people in Australia have very different thoughts about marriage in response to their parents and whatnot, they need to have this conversation long before they actually meet someone. Because that is the worst time to tell, mum and dad, I know we're Arab, but I want to marry an African man. Generally, this would not go down too well. So I really think that young people need to have this conversation long before someone actually enters the scene, just to plant the seed. Mom, dad, what do you guys think? Oh, that's really weird. Oh, but why? I know this couple, that couple, they get along really fine, because ultimately we're all kind of hybrid in the end, because we either were born here or we moved here from our countries of origin from very young. We grew up in Australia, different parts, and this has impacted on how the way we view things and what we want in our husbands and wives. So an insistence that you need to marry someone from back home in that precise village might actually be a recipe for disaster, because that might not be what you want, might be what your mom and dad want, but if that's not going to work for you, you're the one in that marriage.
But let's move out of that. That's an extreme case where I know people are from the exact same village, speak the exact same language. Let's just talk about regions.
No,
I mean,
regions too.
that's probably most people can relate to that. Just if you might be Indian or Pakistani, can you get married to someone from an Arab background? Because right there, just those two races, there's a cultural clash there.
I think people just make it a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. I mean, so long as you're both Muslim, what's the issue? I mean, it's a state of mind at the end of the day. If people are going to make it such a huge deal, like, oh my God, you're you eat different food than I do. Oh my gosh, how can this work? It's just really, if you look at it, from a broad perspective, you see that it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. I have relatives who married into people from different backgrounds and cultures. And I myself am a mixed Arab background, and I think it just, from my perspective, it's so. I just feel it's so insignificant, but for a lot of people, it is.
It's really important, and if it's so important to your parents, but it's not to you, then you need to come to a compromise. You need to be able to talk about this in a way that is that they can receive, while being polite and firm. And really, at the end of the day, if you meet someone amazing in every other level, spiritually you're compatible, emotionally you're compatible, you're attracted to them, whatnot, but they happen to be born in a different part of the world. I mean, seriously, you can work through things. And I think one of the advantages of mixed marriages is that you can't have assumptions. Because you're from a different, whatever it might be, and you need to talk about things. And a good marriage needs an ongoing conversation. Because you can't work from assumptions. Because you'll be like, oh, I thought, no, I didn't. Oh, okay, then, so you need to keep talking. So when you come from a place where it's different, I think it actually makes for better communication.
Very honest commentary and insightful discussion. In regards to the question that was posted to the survey participants, how would your parents react to wanting to marry someone from a different cultural background? We're going to get to that answer right after the break. It's a very unexpected answer. Stay tuned, you're listening to The Y Factor on 87.6 FM.
Brother, help one another, all we need is love. All we need to honor our mother, shelter our sisters, all to existence. God's help will come from
back, listeners. It's the Y Factor here live for the first time since our Eid festival that we covered last time. We're actually in studio here with 3 guests discussing the M word, marriage. Now, the question and the discussion before we went to the break was regarding backgrounds and marrying someone of a different cultural background. In regards to the survey results, 43.8% said that their parents wouldn't react. They would be indifferent to the fact if they married someone from a different cultural background. 1 vote lower than that was the answer, they would be somewhat happy but would come around. And I think, Raidah, you touched on that earlier, that we shouldn't just... Unhappy, sorry, but would come around. And you touched on that earlier, how you said, don't just break the news to them there, make it sort of a process and get them used to the fact that one day you could marry in Arab, could marry an African or vice versa, someone from the subcontinent.
Alright guys, so I think, okay, let's move beyond the point. So Prince Charming has met Princess Fiona. They've spoken to their parents,
Shrek.
although he's Shrek.
Prince
Oh, how's it Prince Charming?
Prince
Not
Charming.
much Shrek testing.
Okay, so they've met, they've gone through all the obstacles of the parents. Now, they're going through their own obstacles of when should I do, what's KK, should I do KK, should I get engaged, no engagement, should I just get married, should I just move out? These are very important issues that go through a lot of people's minds, and I think they're exasperated by the fact that a lot of culture is involved. So people feel very, very highly about these. Parents get emotional, they're like, we raised you for 30 years and now you want to KK before getting engaged, I don't know. So the obstacles that come when a couple actually decide to get married. What are your views on this?
It's a really good question because when I came to Sydney from Singapore when I was about 12 and sort of grew up here, it was very unusual for me to see why are these Arab people getting this KK thing done and then moving in 3 years later.
KK is nikah, by the way.
Yeah, it was really strange because in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, sort of those parts.
And in South Africa as well.
Yeah, there you go. Like you get married on Friday, and you have the walima on like Saturday, and that's it, you're gone. Okay, so none of this, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year thing. And so it was interesting to see that. So, but subhanAllah, when it was my turn to get married, I actually sort of wondered, like, okay, how about we do like KK for 2 months before the walima?
What made you change your mind? Oh,
well, basically, it was difficult for that to happen because, mashallah, my husband's family in Malaysia are extremely close to him, and they needed time to book tickets and take leave from work and so on. So we ended up delaying that and getting married sort of like, so Friday nikah and Saturday walima. But in the end, alhamdulillah, it was a beautiful thing. I wouldn't have done it any other way because that way his whole extended family and mine as well from Singapore would come down and, make necessary preparations like hotel bookings. And so really from the beginning, I was like, wow, it's not just me and him really. It's about the whole family and making everybody happy, as much as you can, because we needed that kind of barakah. Not sort of like, I don't care what you all think, doesn't matter. It's like, it does matter. Family does matter,
I think I understand where people come from when they have the extended break between the KK and the walima. I think it's because prior to the KK, they just don't know each other as well. They've met, they've done the whole door knock appeal or whatever process they went through. And so then that period of getting to know one another has been quite brief. And so they end up using the KK period to get to know one another. I mean, I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying that I kind of understand where they're coming from by having that sort of
the thing
break.
that sort of confuses me with the KK is that if you're using it as means to get to know your partner a bit better, is it too late at that stage to turn back and said, oh, actually, now that I know you a bit better, I actually don't think we're very compatible.
Okay.
That's where I think I have that issue.
Yeah, well, what's considered sort of general knowledge when they do have that break is that the marriage isn't consummated.
Yeah.
And so it's only until the walima that I think in some traditional cultural backgrounds they would see the walima to be the time where they actually consummate the marriage. So between that period, if they do break up for whatever reason, culturally it's considered like, okay, it wasn't, it wasn't consummated.
But in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're married.
Exactly.
Right.
I agree with you on that point, but
Yeah,
I'm just
so
saying
it's a
from their
divorce,
perspective, that's
essentially.
how they do things. Because my brother married into a Lebanese family, for instance, and they underwent that process as well. So, from their perspective, that's how they see, events panning out.
Well, it's interesting because if you go to question 9, we asked the participants, how long should you get to know someone before you do your Katb al-Iktab or Nikah or KK? 45% of them said at least 3 months, right? The lowest common denominator was over 1 year. So there's a general sense that you need a decent time from about 3 to 6 months to get to know the person, but if you're going over a year, you're sort of pushing it. Would you agree with that?
We were at this camp where we basically questioned a whole bunch of young people about the time period, and you'll find that a lot of the guys actually wanted longer and the sisters wanted it shorter. I could understand from the sisters' perspective because it is a very sensitive topic.
Biological clock ticking.
Yeah.
Changing their minds and running
Yeah,
away.
exactly.
Oh,
Is 3 months, the right time? I think it's really an individual
Robert,
answer.
I think your answer should be just come to the debate on Saturday.
Yep, come to debate on Saturday. You can give your own opinion, but if you ask me that question, I don't know. I think it's a
And
personal.
I think, like, seriously, I think it's really subjective, and ultimately, you will not know someone until you marry them. Full stop. They can be a certain way with you, and they're not trying to be deceptive, because you can't help but be on your best behavior when you're courting someone.
Yeah.
You want to impress them. You want to show them your best side. You don't. You quickly make yourself look better, or like get rid of your bad mood when they come through the door, because that's the one time that we ever gonna see them, basically, and it's all very controlled.
You're not living with them. So
No,
they're not
exactly. So,
seeing you.
Well, going off this topic, I think a very, very interesting topic has come up, and this is a direct comment from the Facebook page. Sister Anna Rose Zaid is asking, what is love? And I think this fact of love, attraction, things like that, because as Muslims, we don't really, we do have relationships with the opposite gender, but not really deep and meaningful relationships, right?
Mhm.
So when you kind of get to know someone on that level, you're like, okay, should I chuck myself in this or not? Am I really attracted to them? And I think some of the Facebook, some of the emails that we received, one question actually asked, if someone ticks all the boxes, there is an attraction, but you don't have strong feelings towards them, that is excitement, spark, love, whatever, should you be saying yes? Is it wrong to fear that you might not develop these feelings for them later on? And I think this is very, very, a lot of sisters I speak to always voice these concerns, and I think the brothers have the same thing. I mean, you only get one shot at it. Is it right or
Seriously,
wrong?
from my own experience, let me assure you, inshallah, if you start from the beginning on the right foot, and you make istikhara, and you ask the right people, you consult them, you do everything above the board, and you realize that you do have sincere concern for this person, when you marry them, Allah will open something in your heart, and it will develop. Because if you're both good to each other, it is impossible for nothing to develop. But this concept of violins and sparks and fireworks and this is crazy.
So you're saying that's a fallacy, right?
Like, exactly. Like this is like crash and burn.
To
That's not.
repeat that again, I think you just dashed every single girl's hopes out there.
No. Like, if anything, like, seriously, all this romancing and so on, this can happen after you get married. Not beforehand. Because beforehand you're so restricted anyway. What are you supposed to do?
My young uncle told me this the other day, and I want you guys, if you can voice your opinions regarding it. He said, love comes 5 years after marriage. What do you think?
Well, it doesn't take 5 years.
Are you sure he didn't mean divorce?
It's 5 years.
Oh, okay.
I think you need to get your facts
They're happily married, they've got twins, they've got children, but I guess he's trying to say it'll come after
It'll
you
come.
live with
I
this
think, like,
person,
If it
experience
never
them.
comes, because that's a fear that many girls have, or guys or whatever, get into it, right? And you might have a child, 2 children, and you're just living in this relationship. And that's it. I'm not saying it's negative. I'm putting the question out to you guys. Is it fine to have a relationship where you're content, you're being treated well, you have a nice relationship, you laugh together, you go out together, things like that, but there's no spark, there's no, how do you say it, like those, fireworks and things like that? Is that a really idealized
Well, I mean,
Western
think about
concept?
it. Can you imagine having sparks and fireworks each time you see your husband every single day for years on end? You will not be able to sustain this. It will be just exhausting. So, but I mean, think about the deep companionship and comfort that you can find in your spouse after a long day at work. That's what you want. You can leave the sparks for, like, anniversaries or like special things that you make together, but it's not an ongoing thing. That's chemistry that was needed in the beginning.
Brother Muhammad told about that, his advice from his uncle. I've heard, I won't say who said this to me, but they said, I don't believe in love at first sight, I believe in lust at first sight.
Yeah.
And I think this is what this is all about. I think, yes, it's all Hollywood and what we see in movies that, there'll be doves flying and you'll be helplessly in love. I genuinely believe that you grow to love somebody, you appreciate them, and because of you build a home and a life with somebody else, you can't help but start to love them. And especially if spiritually you'll add to each another. You'll be grateful for them because they're bringing you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But also if you've got kids together, you'll have that that common like affection for the child. So I also don't sort of believe in the whole idea of love before marriage and stuff.
And like Allah will place that love between you. He's already promised that. Like taskunu ilayha, there's like going to be tranquility between both of you. There's something extremely amazing that happens right after you do the nikah. That's it, your husband and wife. And subhanAllah, you can finally be yourself. And it's all good, it's halal, it's all rewarded. And how can you not love someone after a long day at work? He still helps you wash the dishes and helps you vacuum the floor.
It's called the honeymoon period. You're in the honeymoon period. I do think that with marriages in general, it takes a lot of hard work.
From both parties.
People get excited about the wedding and they want the big wedding and the big dress and everything. And all of that is absolutely insignificant at the end of the day. It's not about the wedding day. It's about the actual marriage.
Yeah, it's about everyday life. After that, it's the interactions you have from morning till night with your partner. Will you show good character? Won't you? These things.
Will this person get you closer to Allah and inshallah to Jannah?
To Jannah,
you have to think about and not only that. Once you're in the marriage, there's a lot of compromising.
Absolutely.
You're not, that independence that you had before marriage is now taken away. Not taken away, but you have to now consider the other party. You have to consider your partner in everything you do. You have to, you're not going to get your way with everything. You're going to have to compromise. You're going to have some, inshallah, great moments together, but at the same time, you got to realize it's a lot of hard work. And for sisters that are just thinking about the big wedding day with the big dress and, you have a big surprise coming up. It's not about that. You have to think about what happens after the wedding.
And in regards to that, I mean, that's a great point, as you mentioned. If we go to question 6, in regards to the gender roles in a marriage, so we've passed this whole awkward phase of meeting someone, gauging whether their feeling is mutual. In regards to the gender roles themselves, the overwhelming majority, 60%, said it is subjective, whatever the couple deems best for them. Would you agree with that, or would you say there is a one-size-fits-all solution as to the men are the breadwinners, the female is the primary carer, etc.?
I think that's an idealistic answer that people like to think that they are. They think that it's up to the couple. From talking to brothers and sisters who are married, it does come down to the sister saying, "Oh, he's not helping me with the house," and the brother say, "Well, I work the whole day and I bring home the." I won't say bacon, the bread and milk, beef, and I expect to come home to a cooked meal. So I always think about from Islamically, I know that it's a man's right to earn income. So the wife works, it's her, she keeps whatever she wants. And I would look at our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He did help around the home, and I think that's sort of these lessons that we need to teach from the brothers. We need to teach the brothers that it's okay, they should be helping around the house, and equally I'm sure there's lessons for the sisters as well.
Yeah, and I mean, really, if you're the type of girl who wants your husband to help you around the house, then you need to be clear on that from the beginning. And you need to see what his parents were like, because that's a really strong indicator of what he deems as being normal. So if he grew up seeing his dad helping out his mom, then it's normal, right? Everybody does it. Well, not really. Nature. Or if he saw his dad never helping out his mom because he felt his role was to always be served by his wife, and that's what he'll deem as normal. So you need to have this kind of open communication from the beginning. So if you're not happy with your husband not sharing chores, then don't marry him, because otherwise you're going to be having unmet expectations and you'll be frustrated and angry, because really realistically it's a man's responsibility to financially provide for you, right? And the woman, if you're not helping out in terms of finances and you're at home, what else are you going to do, right? You might as well, it's sadaqah, you're helping, and that's the beautiful thing. So in the end, it's all about intention. All these arguments about I do this, I do that, but really linking back to Allah, how can we please Allah through this? If He's pleasing Allah through earning money and keeping a roof over my head, then inshallah I can please Allah too by providing him with help at home. And if he's willing to help at home as well, fantastic. There's no loss there.
I think Raidah's on the ball there. I think also the situation's nuanced. Like, at the end of the day, if you've got, say, a halal mortgage, I don't know if that exists, but anyway, just hypothetically speaking, you have a halal mortgage, or you have, expenses that you're both trying to, contribute to. You both parties might be expected to be working. So if both parties are working, and then the the man still wants to be the manly man and, you know, have his home cooked meal at the end of the day, and then have his wife look after the kids and clean the house and pick up the children from childcare and, you know, et cetera, and then make his home cooked meal. And that's just unfair. And so I think compromise really does need to take place within those relationships. So I don't think gender roles should be specified.
No,
depending on the
exactly.
situation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they
and if
should.
your spouse comes from a place of sincere concern, then you know that they're going to be understanding. You
Yeah.
know that, you know, sorry honey, I've had a really hard day at work, I can't quite cook up 5-course meal today. That's fine, we'll order pizza. These kinds of daily conversations.
Guys say. Is that like
Yes, as long as
Because when
a
you're
way to
starving-
a man's heart is
It's
through
your
his stomach.
food.
Mohammed.
I agree with that.
No,
You know that.
seriously though, you come home from work, you're starving. Your wife, for example, was home for that week. She wasn't working, and she comes home, and you know, you say, "Where's the food?" And then she goes, Aisha radiallahu anha, it was never expectation for her to be cooking. You know, why don't you be a good man and just go get.
Maybe
The real-
in that context, he's hungry and testosterone is running through his body. What struck a chord with me just quickly before we go to a break was what Raidah said about looking at the parents as a strong indicator. For example, I'm not married, but I know the way, you know, when I get home, sometimes I don't even say Assalamu alaikum to my mum. It's like, what did you make? You know? But,
Food.
and when she hasn't made the best food, as you said, and she offers to order takeaway, I'm happy with that. I mean, most men will be happy. So I guess we feel a sense of.
Mohammed looks doubtful.
He's shaking
What
his
do you
head.
do?
I just want to.
I just go home, I open the pot and see what's inside. I don't even ask. So,
You give salams, but then.
but you don't know. You definitely give salams. But I think people treat.
Boiling water.
Yep.
What happens?
Uh,
What's your reaction?
Well, I'm very domesticated, sister. So I will
That's when
take,
they start
open
to
the
cry.
cupboard, and I'll take it some pasta,
Yeah.
and I'll make something for dinner.
Oh my God! Did you say you can cook?
That's the first year on the Y Factor, guys.
Oh
We're going to
my
come back,
gosh.
inshallah. We're discussing marriage. We're going to a short break. We'll be back, inshallah. Listen to the Y Factor on 87.6 FM.
Very special. There's no one just like you. Created by the Master, Allah created you. You are very special, exclusively designed. You are very special, and I'm so glad you're mine. You were made by Allah. He fashioned your heart. You were made by Allah. He knew you from the start. You were made by Allah. Unique in all your ways. You were made by Allah.
All right, welcome back to the show, guys, and we're here discussing the most important topic in the universe, the topic of marriage. That was really serious. I'm so serious. All right, now I think the next thing we want to discuss, inshallah, is what is the optimum age for someone to get married? Now-
Let's hear from them before we get the results.
All
This
right,
will be
good.
interesting.
All
What age? We're going to give you guys 4 answers. Please don't look at the results.
Yeah.
Eyes. Yep. Okay. So, what is the optimum age for someone to get married? You've got 4 options. As soon as they reach puberty. That's A. As soon as they finish high school. I think Tasnim drafted this. C was as soon as they finish university or tertiary education. And 4 was once they have a steady income.
I'm going to go with option E, when it's right for them, when they feel it's right.
Okay. Revolutionary. You have an option E.
I go for F, like whenever Allah wills.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Az, keep it going. Hat trick.
Okay, I'm gonna go for puberty. No, no, I think it's just whenever they're ready.
Yeah.
Like whenever they feel that. Look, no one knows themselves better than themselves, and so you know when you're ready. Yeah.
Well, it was very, very close. 55 of the participants said as soon as they finish university or tertiary education, marriage is on their mind. 53 of the participants said, and a lot of what you guys were saying, once they have a steady income. Well, I guess that's sort of alluding to once you feel as if you're ready. It's inherently subjective. Would you agree with that?
I think society thinks after university, because that's when everybody hounds you and asks you, Muhammad, when are you getting married? Like, what's next? Because they don't think. I think they think that's pretty much the next step.
Yeah.
So I
Girls
sort of
get
agree with the
hounded
results.
Way before that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think do you think it's stemming from an actual concern rather than just whimsical putting it off? Because, for example, Adam Optional, who I do apologise not giving credit to, he was the one that had the genius idea of having those cards in mailboxes.
Yeah.
But Adam Optional is telling us on Facebook, basically, does getting married distract you from studies? And I think that's a concern that a lot of young people have. So, for example, not just like a bachelor degree or a tertiary education, but for example, makes them lose focus on what drives them in life.
It depends on the person. My sister's 19. She got married around. Well, no, she's not 19. She's 21. But she got married at 19 while she was still at university. And so for her, it was no big deal.
So she managed that well?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
she's still finishing off her degree. I think this is her last year, or her penultimate year. But either way, she handled it very well.
Yeah,
even the whole
everybody's
wedding
different.
didn't take long to plan. She had a good wedding. They got the house ready, furniture, everything.
Was there a lot of
No
family
drama.
support from both sides?
A lot of family support
Yeah, well,
from
that's
both sides.
critical. I think if you're going to marry when you're still in uni and you haven't quite had an income and so on, you would definitely need a lot of family support to keep you going, right?
Interestingly enough, she did say that the reason why she said yes to her husband, who's a Macquarie banker, who's very stable, etc., is because she said, look, I've seen what's happened to the older generation of girls, and I just don't want that to happen to me. And so a lot of her friends did the same thing. They all got married when they were 18, 19, whatever, because they were, that wasn't the primary reason, but for her, one of the fears was that she would she would struggle basically later on. And also, a lot of the guys that we've been speaking to said that one of the concerns for them is that the women are too demanding on them financially. They're expecting so much. They're expecting a really expensive wedding. They're expecting, fancy furniture. They're expecting so much on them, and they're not in a position where they're earning as much at that age, whether they're still at university or they've just finished uni or whatever. They're not earning over 100K a year. They're just getting by pretty much. I mean, a lot of these guys are struggling to pay their phone bills, all alone trying to pay for some massive fancy wedding and some big dress and furniture, etc., etc.
Well, as I'd like to differ with you on that one, because according to our Y Factorians, only if the world was like them, we asked them what type of wedding would you like to have. Now, 27% said a religious function at a mosque. 13.5 said informal affair at a house. I think everyone wants to run away from the house, so they don't want anything at home. 55.2%, which was the astounding majority, said an intimate dinner at a reception with a small number of people. And then you had 29.2% that said a big hoo-ha, a big reception with
It must be
lots of people.
Lebanese.
I think that their mom was on their back saying, tick that one. Tick that one.
And that is only if that was their option, because at the end of the day, the wedding's for the family and not for the couple.
Yeah.
So
Now, it's interesting because when I mentioned that earlier about, guys being afraid, this came from the male perspective. Whereas when you actually speak to the females, a lot of them are like, no, I don't want a big fancy wedding, whatever. But then their complaint is the guys are too picky in terms of what they're looking for physically or whatever. They're looking for Angelina Jolie or whatever they're looking for.
In hijab.
Yeah, in hijab. That their complaint from the women is that the guys are too picky. So it'd be interesting with these surveys to see basically how many males voted for what and how many females voted for what as well. What do you guys think?
Well, I think that, if guys have this idea that, girls want like a gigantic wedding and a huge this and a huge that, and that's really depressing because I don't have enough money. And then girls are thinking, the guys I don't want a huge wedding. I want a nice guy, but they want someone like a supermodel in hijab. And there seems to be this expectation.
Or Rachel
mismatch.
Finch in hijab.
Well, there you go.
Mohammed, please don't disclose this in this is on air.
Hey, she was on national television, so everyone's seen
There you
it.
go.
Continue.
So this seems to be a problem. So is this the reality, or is this like a perception of reality? Are we blocking each other from getting married because we have phantoms in our mind thinking, as opposed to reality? Like, This is why I think honest discussion is so important. What do guys really want? What do
And
girls
that's
really
why you
want?
should go to the forum on Saturday.
And that's why you should come to the Y Factor more often. All right, guys, just before we wrap it up and I let you guys speak about your respective events, we do have persona non grata from Facebook who keeps asking us
Who
to ask
is that?
That's the question.
Reveal yourself.
That is the next discussion point next
So
week.
just really quickly, we've touched upon this earlier in the episode, but this person wants it mentioned again. Mohammed, the question?
So basically they're asking, assuming you meet someone at work, uni, i.e. the workplace, what is the best and most appropriate way to gauge whether the feeling is mutual? So if you have an interest or you're attracted to somebody, a brother or a sister, how do you best go about finding out whether that person has the same feeling? Is it through a third party? Is it through other means?
Third party, I'd say that. It just makes it so much easier for everybody.
Less humiliation.
Less
I'd go with
humiliation.
third party too.
And if it's a yes, fantastic. If it's a no, then it's far less humiliating that way.
I actually would just ask straight out. Like, I don't think there's a problem with just asking.
But
And
can you give us a good phrasing in case the person wants to use it, like a template? So what would you say?
so I like somebody and I want to know if they're interested in me.
Yeah.
I'd say, do you want to go out for coffee sometime?
Astaghfirullah Azim Muhammad. This is the Y Factor,
Alright, well.
not Carl and Jackie O. No, I'm just kidding.
The Y Factor does not
More like
endorse
the X-rated
the
factor.
views aired on today's show. Alright guys, it's been a lovely discussion, but just before we wrap up inshallah, I want you guys just really quickly to speak about each respective event. So sister as Fahmi, there's the M word. It sounds like a disease or something. M. The M word
M
event
word.
this Saturday. What's that all about?
It's basically an open forum dialogue for Muslims to discuss the problems or basically any issues they might have about marriage in their community. I mean, recently Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, I think when I saw him in Turkey, was saying that, you know, at the end of the day, this is a communal obligation. If there is a problem happening all around the world, not just in Australia, but, you know, unfortunately it's the women. A lot of women are not getting married in places such as England and, you know, America, etc. And it is a communal obligation for the community leaders to step up and actually do something about it. And this is a practical event. It will be, it's a free event, FREE. It's a free event at the Emporium
I think
Function
Hanan
Centre.
never made you say that. That's her favourite word.
Khaled Khalifullah from Melbourne. He's a comedian. He will be emceeing. You got Hanan Dover, you got Sheikh Bilal Danoon, Constable Danny McCarty, Hajja Maha Abdo from the Muslim Women Association, Anna Rosaid and her husband Abdullah, and many other people.
That's quite a lineup.
Refreshments provided. You have the Y Factor doing a skit with the World Orphanage Fund, I think. So members of the Y Factor doing some really funny skits about the do's
No,
and don'ts
let's
of marriage.
clarify this. It will be Mustafa and Jamal. Do not paint us.
Mustafa
Do not paint
and
us with the same brush.
Jamal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually quite funny.
They
Yeah.
are, but just in case they stuff up, we've disclosed, you know.
Yeah, and it's basically basically it's a forum to discuss how the events will work afterwards. The networking events to get to know other people will be really fun as well, and the actual events when they start, they'll be fun as well. Not
So-
going to be humiliating or awkward or anything like that. Give it a go. Come to the forum, check it out. You know, say whatever you want to say.
It's on the same night as Brother Muhammad's
So for some
debate.
healthy competition,
Hold on, before we get on to that,
Ours is
are you
free.
calling out to all single brothers and sisters out there?
Yeah, especially the brothers out there. Step up.
Man up.
Man up,
Man up,
boys.
brothers.
you're the one
Man
that
up.
just said that you didn't want to go because you're too embarrassed. So
Exactly.
you
And
need to
Muhammad,
go.
your event on the same night.
That's
I think if you want something that's sort of entertaining but also informative, hot on the heels of last year's successful iDebate, I think you'd want to come to our iDebate organised by ISRA Australia. The question is a lengthy pre-wedding nikah the way to go? It's going to be in Auburn Soule College Hall this Saturday, 26th of May at 7 o'clock. We've also got a great lineup of speakers. Sheikh Wissam Shikawi, who's written a fantastic book on fiqh, and Sheikh Hashim Faraj. And it's really a platform for the youth to basically get their points of views across about marriage and about how they would want to meet people. So
Do you recommend
definitely-
that people bring their parents along so they nudge them and it's like, listen, he said no.
I think definitely bring your parents along. It's a respectable event, but I've heard some of the speakers' arguments, and I know there'll be a lot of humor as well. But at the end of the day, I do want to emphasize that it is about informing the community. So that's why we've got some sheikhs on each side to sort of give an Islamic perspective on what's right and what's wrong.
Your event sounds good, but ours sounds better.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Alhamdulillah, I think there's enough Muslims in the Muslim community to go to both, so all the best with your event, sister.
Thanks,
A
man.
healthy competition on there. We love it. Raidah?
Yes, so alhamdulillah, there's no clash for this one. We're going to have a Seekers Guidance event basically
With Al Ghazali
with Al Ghazali Center. So I'll be co-hosting with Az, and it'll be after Ramadan, inshallah, and we'll publish more information very soon. So essentially, the title will be "Why Are You Not Married?" which is again, the penultimate question these days. And it's going to be a panel, discussing, why this issue is such a problem, not just in Sydney, but all over the Muslim world, in the West in particular. And we're going to open it to audience, and they can, raise a hand and, participate, and just to get, discussion, just to get honest discussion, so we can actually give people the option to speak.
See, with that one, that's from a very Dini perspective, so hopefully people will reorient their
Are
priorities.
you saying the Mission of Hope one is from a very fitna perspective?
No, Mission of Hope one is a lot of fun. It's going to be practical events, so people actually get to meet one another at different events. And
I guess they both serve their purposes, very informative, I debate, in a very sort of practical Mission of Hope
and
event,
look,
inshallah.
fellas that are out there, Muslim women in our community are awesome
Seriously.
people. Seriously. and
Okay,
you
we've
really
officially
need to
become
know.
the fitna factor.
I can see
seriously,
the
come out
brothers'
there.
jaw drops in the studio.
Yeah.
So before we get any worse than this, I would like to give you all the platform to just say some final concluding remarks. And basically remarks to the young people out there who are struggling, who are trying to live up to the ideal standards of our deen, and who are trying to do the right thing, but at the same time cannot fulfill this awesome obligation of marriage. What would your advice be to them?
We'll start off with Az, inshallah.
I think basic Aqidah states in our deen that, Allah is all powerful, can do anything. And as soon as you start to put limits upon yourself and say, well, I don't think I'll ever get married, or I don't think I'll do this or that, you're putting limits on Allah's power. And I think that's dangerous territory. You have to remain positive. You have to always continually do dua, just pray whatever you need to pray. But keep in mind that, inshallah, once you need to tie a camel as well, basically. You also need to put your best foot forward and, try and make it happen as well. Don't just say, I'm going to sit here in my room and cry and wait for things to happen for me. Go out there, concentrate on your deen, concentrate on yourself. But if an opportunity arises where someone wants to facilitate a meeting with someone else for you, go out there and do it. You've got nothing to lose. And you've got nothing to lose by going to the M-Word Emporium this Saturday, May 26th.
Another plug, we said for remarks. Raidah, hopefully a bit more controlled.
Well, basically, I think ultimately the most important relationship you will ever have in your life is with you and Allah. Everything else will change. Everything else will fade. Everything else is something that can fluctuate. So I think ultimately, no matter how impossible it is to get married or whatnot, just have faith that Allah is looking after you right now as we're speaking. You may not see the wisdom in why you're single, but inshallah when you are married, you'll be like, oh, that's why. I had to go through X, Y, Z to develop myself so that now I can compromise with someone and learn to be selfless and learn to, have conflict resolution skills. And it's a whole new bag of chips, once you actually get married. It's forget just finding the guy. After that, you have to learn how to live with him. So really it's about development from stage to stage to stage. And always turn back to Allah. Always ask Him for what's best. And He will never let you down. Never, ever.
Mohammed?
I'm just going to re-emphasize what these two sisters have said and talk about the power of dua, and not only your own dua, but your parents' duas, your family and friends' duas. You should ask people to make dua for you. But about also making active dua, I think one practical thing in terms of advice I'd give to Muslims out there: if you want to meet a good Muslim, be in a place where there are good Muslims. So go to these events that we advertising about. Go to the mosque, go for classes, and inshallah you'll meet a good person there that sort of shares the same kind of values that you do.
Jazakallah khairan to our panelists, as Fahmi from Mission of Hope, Raidah Shah Idil, and Mohammed Khan. Thank you very much for being part of the first ever live discussion on the Y Factor. Just quickly, all of you guys touched on dua one way or another. Little social experiment, if you type in istikhara on Google, the top 4 searches are istikhara. Second one is istikhara dua. Third one is istikhara with a H, without the A. And the fourth is istikhara for marriage. So it's positive in that sense that Muslims are actually exploring what's online in terms of making dua and seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's counsel in regards to marriage. Tasnim, it's been an awesome episode.
That's right. Now, just before we leave it, at the Y Factor, there are a lot of events coming up, and I think our listeners usually expect us to just let them know what's happening in town. So just to quickly do that, inshallah, this weekend is action-packed. So tomorrow night, which is Friday night, there are 2 events. There is the Celebrate Hope, which is a part of, 3 events. So there is the Celebrate Hope, which is a part of Islamic Relief's tour. They will have Dr. Jamal Badawi, Dr. Abdul Kafi. That event will be at the Renaissance, inshallah, 6 p.m. So just Google or Facebook search Islamic Relief Celebrate Hope. That will come up. Sydney for Syria will having their Hand in Hand We Make a Difference. Now that inshallah is again tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. And it will be at the Grand Royale in Lidcombe.
Granville.
At Granville, Grand Royale in Lidcombe. So that is
Grand Royale in Granville, Tasnim.
Oh,
we had our launch there. I don't know how you don't know that.
I'm so sorry, guys. So the Syria event, Grand Royale in Granville. Okay, so that's that, inshallah. Now, on Saturday, there is a fundraiser for Palestine, and again, that's a part of the Celebrate Hope of Islamic Relief. So be sure to attend that, inshallah. That's at 6 p.m. There's also the M word, why marriage matters. There's also the I debate on Saturday night. So that's, you've got 3 options on Saturday. You can't, seriously, you'll be a loser if you
think
stay
about
home.
uni assignments, just attend something.
Just attend.
Yeah.
Now, on Sunday, inshallah, there is Unity in the Community. Unity in the Community is an unprecedented event, inshallah. It will be held at Port Keating Park from the morning until 8 p.m, I believe. There will be rides, face painting, stalls, food, prizes and everything. And I think it's unprecedented in the sense that, inshallah, it will have a spectrum of Sydney's mashayikh. So Unity in the Community, again, that is at Port Keating Park in Bankstown, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, that's about it. Let us know your thoughts on Facebook. I think all the 3 participants are on Facebook.
Yep.
Raidah and Az are already in the group. I'll add Brother Mohamed, inshallah. So if you want to direct further comments to them, anything else.
Nice ones, please.
Just let us know your thoughts on Facebook, inshallah. And again, at the Y Factor, we do appreciate our listeners and all the Y Factorians who've been sending in the comments.
And we'd like to thank the Voice of Islam for giving us the opportunity to go live for the first time, inshallah. And if your feedback is that wonderful on the Facebook page, inshallah, we can do this again and again, week in, week out. So keep the feedback coming and direct any feedback to our fantastic panelists today on the Y Factor page, inshallah.
All right, assalamu alaikum, and we're going to just take it to the adhan of Aisha, inshallah.